be more open into hiring and give space uh, and connect more with what I call these lateral thinkers. And this Talent and Rebels, it's a book that is all about it. We also developed a sort of a practice around it where we help large HRs.
Hi all. We have the pleasure of welcoming Matteo Rizzi to our interview series. I am Drishti Shah from the Engati team, and let's just begin with a quick intro of Engati. Engati is the world's leading multilingual no-code chatbot platform available across 14 channels with 25,000 bots created across 186 countries in every domain and use case. Engati has also been recognized as a top platform by INC, Tech World, CIO, and many others. We run the Engati blog, video channel, Engati Engage podcast, which receives upwards of 300,000 visitors annually. And now for our guest, Matteo, created and co-founded FinTechStage.com, a platform for investors, innovators, and startups to foster fintech innovation globally. Matteo is an entrepreneur and author with 2 decades of experiences in financial services. In 2008, he co-founded InnoTribe, the innovation arm of Swift, where Matteo worked for 13 years. He also launched the InnoTribe Startup Challenge. For 3 years in a row, Financial News has nominated Matteo as one of the 40 most influential fintech executives in Europe. And Bank Innovation has also named him as one of the 30 innovators to watch shaping the industry. So, hi Matteo, we are really thrilled to have you on Engati.
Hey guys, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, likewise. So, before we hear the inside scoop from Matteo himself, here's a quick announcement. We have something special for all of you, so stick around till the end of the interview. So, beginning with the first open question that we have for you is, where do you see major rethinking happening in the world of fintech due to the corona crisis? And where will all the focus and spending go as the situation flatlines a bit?
So I think that this worldwide pandemic has brought some significant change, mostly on the how than on
Hmm.
the what.
Yeah.
So fintech opportunities won't go away, right? So there will always be a great opportunity for digitalization, for improving customer experience, etc., etc. But the fact that half of the world has been in lockdown for close to 2 months, and everyone has discovered the remote working, everyone has discovered a compelling need, like to pay more with cards and using cashless. Everyone has discovered an increased need for e-commerce and buying online goods and services that previously it was normal to buy outside. So that things alone, so the very basic human needs that have transformed our day-to-day life for the past 8 weeks are going to influence the way that people think about getting their financial services, which is
Yeah.
why I'm talking more about the how
Hmm.
than about the what.
Yeah.
So there are not, as far as I know, and I've been involved in several ecosystems, both in terms of advisor. For example, we created a task force in Mozambique, which is one of the countries in Africa where the rural part of the population is actually the highest compared to the city part of it. And again, that was we were mostly from the fintech world because that's how the movement has been created. But of course, we call people from logistic, from e-commerce, from transportation, and you name it. And actually, it was more about you know the for everything that was related specifically to COVID. It was really about how the brain of the customer is going to be rewired after a period of time where he or she could get the services, the same services as he or she needed before in a different way.
Yes.
So a shortcut could be simply, hey, you know what? Let's just think about payments and how they're going to change on the retail side, or again using another shortcut, how small and medium businesses are going to change, because some of them will just like not survive, unfortunately, as probably like half of the startups. But even the more traditional small and medium businesses, they will need a quick and fast sort of recovery capital, right? So now that's why I'm talking about against the how and not the what, because the fact that small and medium businesses need capital is not new. So that's the what. But the how is different, because now the time for the capital to arrive to these businesses has to be so much shorter. And the source of this capital is not going to be the same, because one thing is a startup that is quickly using capital from the bank, or to sort of do some smart algorithm and supply, capital to SMEs.
Right.
Another thing is how government can shortcut and optimize so many processes to actually go from the source directly to the like operators and the SMEs in a period of time that is short enough not to let them die. So these are like two examples of the how that I think that will be profoundly influenced by the post-COVID era.
Yeah. I think it is going to, and now that people are more focused on how to, like you said, that it won't be the what, but the processes that are going to change. So the how part of it, on how the companies will get back and smooth line or streamline the processes. Yeah, definitely.
And maybe if I can add one more thing, and I don't know if that could be part of the like a follow-up question, but I also think that the way people will look at talent will be different. So I think that more and more, like large corporations and financial institutions, and especially incumbents,
Yeah.
uh, they will need a sort of a leapfrogging, not only into digitalization, which is sort of a journey that every incumbent has started already, but also in terms of how to let more disruptive innovation to soak in, right? So, and that's part. I mean, I'm pretty sure that sooner or later you will allow me to at least show the latest book that I wrote, which is about you know letting disruptors and misfits and rebels and lateral thinkers to influence more your business. And not doing just incremental innovation, which is what most people is busy doing. So that's also is going to be a very big change. Actually, more than I think is going to be, I actually wish is going to be a big change, because that's the way where you know businesses will start pivoting for real instead of dying.
Yeah, you're right. So what are your thoughts on adoption of AI in fintech? Like, is that industry being more conservative than the others? As like we are talking about transformation and digitization. So, how would AI help the fintech industry?
So I think that saying that AI is being slower or slow down in being adopted by financial services is not considering the fact that the major part of AI that you and I see
Yeah,
is actually invisible in financial services. So when you think of how AI is applied, for example, in mathematical models, in everything from like in the investment banking part, in the robo advisory part, so this is being hugely present to a point where today you could even there are many services where you can buy your own AI, your own mini robot in to do your own strategy. You can start with 5,000 euros, and it's actually or dollars, and it is actually a service that before was only accessible by clients of the private banking, right? So AI certainly helped investment managers to reach a bigger crowd with a bigger array of services that previously were not available. So in this space, AI is very present.
Hmm.
What is less visible, and because maybe it's more complicated to like adopt it at scale, is in the retail space. So the AI that when you walk in a bank, your phone is all of a sudden sending you a million signals on how to invest, where did you spend, the little like a minority report, sort of interface that's super costly, a bit rudimental at the moment, and not widely adopted. So, in between the retail and the investment banking space, I think there is a span from not a lot to really a lot of AI used. Uh, I also think that there are a number of businesses that claim they to use AI and they don't. It's
Yeah.
just a little bit, just a basic machine learning. There is a lot of misconception in terms of what really AI means. And then again, when you say is not used a lot, is I mean when you think about an Alexa, for example, or a Siri starting, making judgments about your financial life, the if you think of something like this, we're really far away. But that's not because it's financial services. It's just that because AI has not been democratized enough to make such a type of project cost effective. Is as simple as that. Uh, because we are surrounded by AI, really. I mean, it's not, and in everything else on top of financial services, there is a piece of uh, continuous learning machine intelligence that
Yes.
keeps improving. But the challenge is today is just for the few. And
Yeah.
of course, people are surfing. I'm an investor in for the past 6 7 years. There are so many startups that sort of add AI in their pitch so that they can sort of be put on the top of the list to get some money. And when you just scratch a little bit the surface, it is not exactly true, right? So I don't think it's been particularly slow. I think that maybe you're right. The complexity might certainly be, but also the complexity of reaching so many people with something so complex at an affordable price point. That's where I think the balance of it makes it difficult.
Yeah, but do you think that in financial services, if AI is applied um, to an extent, then it can give a really rich analytics for the fintech services to go ahead with?
So the question, put it like this, is a bit generic, right? So because fintech and financial services are a million businesses, right? From financial advisory, where clear AI plays a great role, from like profile analysis, or for example behavioral analysis, big role, into the like digital banking, retail space, like all the personal finance management, big role again. But there are actually places where uh, like trade finance, for example, which is a huge opportunity today, right? So all this notarization of transaction or something like that, you know, all that is about making trade services smarter, which is a challenge that, for example, even Swift, has faced for the past 20 years, right? And now that sort of global trade became ubiquitous, that made the challenge even bigger. There are actually places where AI has less immediate sort of application and benefit. Overall, over 80% of the financial services businesses will have a positive impact by AI, I believe.
Right. So, do you believe that adoption of automation technologies will be prevalent in this day and age? And what functions lend well to these technologies?
I don't believe there is a business in the planet that will not benefit from automation. If you can find one, let me know, right? So, financial services has been in this process since they were born, right? Because we all know that the objective of uh, it financial services have a very simple equation at the end, is that post 2008, when people started losing trust in financial services as it was, there was on one side the fintech coming and I believe sort of exploiting the basic inefficiencies, right, of these large incumbents. And on the other hand, banks try to become fairer, like more fair for the people. And more fair means cheaper, faster, and more efficient.
Efficient,
Through
yeah.
this journey, automation, how cannot be part of it? Now we are, in my opinion, in a phase where technology has been helped so much by the push of the fintechs to disrupt the incumbents, and also the incumbents to shrink their cost and either become fintech themselves or partner in different ways, that automation is actually the only way to make this equation work. But again, automation might be a little bit generic as a word, because it means everything. Automation means AI, means paperless, means no cash, means shrinking the processes, means regulation. I mean, you can automate whatever you want, but you know, until the regulator doesn't say that you can handle signatures online and without physical paper, there is will always be part of the process that cannot be compressed, right? So financial services is a very delicate equation where sooner or later the process become uncompressible
Mhm.
unless the regulator steps in. And
Yes.
this is a journey for every single country, right?
Yeah.
Which is different. That's why we really need to like drill down this answer, you know, probably by at least ecosystem, if not a matrix, which is an array, which is ecosystem and businesses.
Yeah, you're right, actually. So, uh, how do you think conversational intelligence as a part of automated technologies or chatbots will be beneficial for financial services?
So I have a very sort of bold opinion on chatbots in general, where it has been a technology that has little bit being like lipstick on a pig for many businesses, right? So the democratization of chatbots has also been misused simply because many websites, they have a very simple chatbot that allows you to basically do services that are so basics that basically Google can do the same just in 2 3 minutes more, right? So, and this is absolutely normal in sort of a nascent business. Nothing wrong with that. I do believe, though, that there is a form of sophistication for this chatbot, where there are ways that you can definitely improve the customer experience for possibly 50 to 70% of the problems they're solved if you invest the right type of money in making this chatbot intelligent enough to actually do the job, right? My personal opinion is that the potential is enormous, but that because they are not cheap, or because the so there is a very basic level of them that is pretty affordable. But the problem is that when you want this to be instrumental to improve, for example, your customer journey, then the possibility of both analyzing what the customer is typing, and the array of different opportunities to offer according to what he or she is writing, that becomes expensive, because this is when indeed you have the only way is indeed to put AI behind, because the algorithm need to self-learn, need
Yes.
to be because if it doesn't, you are like on a every 6 months you need to stop and almost redoing it from scratch if you do it too basic at the beginning. uh, I I have a computer science degree, but I've never I never took coding too seriously. But I know enough about architecture and the data to figure out that the complexity actually goes hockey stick, right? So there is the first learning curve is pretty much standard. I mean, you and I could build up, an easy chatbot basically for any business, because most of it is common sense. The problem is that when the business become complex and you want the conversation to be re-articulated and actually act upon it, then it requires a level of complexity that it doesn't come cheap. So that's the only issue.
Yeah. It actually, so there are, like you said, there are two phases of it. When we are using a basic chatbot, but you want it as a first tier for the customers to come in, so it should have the basic intelligence that it can answer almost all FAQs, or a set of questions that the user must be asking. So yeah.
Indeed, indeed.
So, how about lead generation or processes like policy issuance and claim filing?
Well, that's to me is nothing more than an additional complexity of what could be considered the standard function for a chatbot.
Right.
And this again, I think the challenge here is you need to be very pragmatic about which type of customers you want to stick, right? Because if you talk about digital natives or people that has a little bit of familiarity, with digital world, it should be pretty straightforward to allow them to digitize the vast majority of the understanding of the claims, right?
Right.
But I think that what is the critical challenge here is not about what they can do with such tools, but
Right.
how fast you get them talk with a human. So that's the main challenge, right? So it is for the machine to learn when is the right time for the customer to move into a way more articulated, such a human brain sort of answer, array of answer, and when like the automatic cycle doesn't work anymore. That point of rupture, if you want to, is the critical one to decide. So of course, this is where the direction is going, right? And by the way, I live in Portugal. I live now in France, but I'm a Portuguese resident. And in Portugal, is possibly the country in Europe where the biggest, including the Google and the Revolut and these guys, and they are having like an army of people doing sort of customer, how do you say, not surveys, but assistance, right? Services. And the fact that these guys keep recruiting, it doesn't mean that automatization and AI is not the answer. It is just a sign that the business is growing and is great.
Yes.
But it's also a sign that no matter how much you manage to automate, there are type of businesses that you know organized and smart chatbot won't get it, right? So that's why, and I'm saying that the challenge is, one, find the right balance, two, find the right rupture point between human and machine, and third, like sort of modulate your investments according to where is the biggest critical mass of clients you want to educate, right? So I'm just making this up. If you're doing a services for elderly people like over 70, I think you can use all the chatbots you want, but there is no way that you're going to interact in the same way as a bunch of millennials for a scooter ride up, right? For example, right? So very basic stuff, but you wouldn't think that some people just don't think about it, right?
Yes, that is true. So, how do you think fintech companies are using social and digital channels to connect with the customers? And do you see this use of tech changing the direction of customer service at any point?
So there is a reason why everyone is talking about digitalization of financial services and becoming digital and so creating digital banks or digital apps, etc., etc. So and the reason is that indeed everyone is trying to reach their clients through their means that they use every day, like the phone, for example, right? And again, what I am seeing now of your question makes sense in the sense that, of course, sort of improving, increasing the number of enriching digital channels is the way to go, and is where every incumbent is sort of investing their money, and is what large fintech startups sort of are born with, right? So they are natively like this, no brainer. The point of attention here is simply the fact that uh, when you try to do it from a strong, heavy legacy system, it might be a little bit more complicated. And also, the example I make every time is that I'm a client of a very large, probably top five UK Asian bank with my little company, and using their e-banking system, I still cannot make an international wire outside 9 to 3 p.m., 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., which is a little bit of a paradox for, and is an online, is an is an online banking system. It's I would understand not to be able to execute it,
Yeah.
but not be able to input it even, and that really looks weird, right? So, and we're talking about a top tier bank. So, what I'm saying is that it looks easy and a no-brainer thing to do, but on the other hand, in some cases, for some large incumbents, it requires to sort of complicate their lives so much more than a native app that it's like building a website today where you don't need to build any login system because you can log in with Facebook, right? And it's native. Or it is like before when you were trying, it's like trying to do open banking 10 years ago, right? You could do it technically by asking 360 bank, each one the way to connect and giving the permission. Now it's, regulators, thought about it, right? It was very easy. So what I'm saying is that despite being the no-brainer way to go, for incumbents might be a little bit more complicated because in one case, either the investments are too heavy for what they are planning to do, or simply the technical requirements are not really compatible unless you put a too expensive middleware, to use a sort of an ancient word, a middleware layer that allows them to connect. So that's a little bit the challenge, but it's the way to go, of course. But it's the way to go, of course.
Yeah, but yes, it is difficult for people having legacy systems to shift directly to a total digital platform. But like in the days that we are going through, like in COVID-19, I think the people who have thought about it and have shifted, or at least slight shifting, are doing better than those who haven't. Of course, it is
Of
difficult.
course.
Yeah, it is difficult for the shift, but I think the initiation starting with COVID is very difficult. But if done before that, it would have have a better process today.
Agree.
So do you have any other thoughts that you would like to leave our audience with, concluding the interview?
So maybe like allow me to talk 1 minute about what I briefly talked about in the first question, which is an invitation to large corporations and incumbents and startups and consultants to be more open in terms of which type of talents and people they are going to work with, because I think that there is an increasing need for brains able to connect concept and thoughts and businesses in a, what I call it, a lateral way, or in an unconventional way. And these type of talents are, in the best case, tolerated by corporations, but they are not empowered, they're not enhanced. And so I collected a number of stories like this, and I also sort of brought my own stories, from Swift and InnoTribe, and how we sort of we uncovered fintech back in 2008 when the word was not that popular back then, and we built this challenge, and we were actually a bunch of I want to say rebels and misfits inside the large corporation that I believe literally made history. When it comes to give space to this startups. Some of them are the unicorns of today, such as TransferWise or Revolut, for example. And the fact that you know 12 years later, none of these people still work in these big companies. We all find our own way. Some of us still are together, but outside, because we could not find the right match for our way of thinking. So I think that I would love to push or share or give an invitation to large corporations to start to be more open into hiring and give space uh, and connect more with what I call these lateral thinkers. And this Talent and Rebels, it's a book that is all about it. We also developed a sort of a practice around it where we help large HRs of institutions, banks, companies, corporates to sort of deal with their talents in a different way, and certainly, hopefully, help these talents and the companies itself to better connect with entrepreneurs at the mindset level. So that's what I would like to add. Thank you for allowing me to do that.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think I would look forward to that book and maybe give it a read once. I think that is a really good thing. And also, I went through something on your Twitter profile where you have this ideation challenge. So, if you could tell something about that as well.
So, well, this is something that is frankly no news anymore, right? So we started our first ideation challenge, 2008 at Swift, and we were not the first one.
Yeah.
So it is a very basic process in terms of the concept, where a large company would allow employees to come out with ideas on a different. It is called a challenge, an innovation led challenge,
Okay.
or a challenge led innovation, better. So the company would actually come out with a two or three major problems to solve. We would invite people to apply with ideas, and then there will be a selection, a rethinking of the teams. Team would work for a few weeks, and then they will go with executive by to the executives, pitching their ideas, and the winner will get possibly some budget to get implemented, for example, right? So very basic process. This is something that is today more or less sort of a running experience for most corporations, uh, especially in tech. Outside tech, not so much,
Yeah.
which is why the innovation space for more traditional businesses, it is slowly coming. The industry 4.0 is, same basic concepts of innovation that were used in tech and financial services, years ago, now strongly applied to a specific business. And it can be transversal, because this is innovation is not business specific, is business agnostic, right? It's just mostly a mindset and a culture that you instill in your people. So yeah, that's why.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So, thank you so much, Matteo, for giving us your time. I think your insights were really valuable, and I know our audience will enjoy the interview that you have given. So, also, if you have stuck around for this long, we are so excited to announce that our ebook, The Evolution of Customer Experience, is out and available to download. So, check the link in the description below for more details. We'll be back with a new episode with a brand new expert soon, so stay tuned and we'll see you around for the next one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. Thanks for having me.